Hi, I'm Adam, and in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can integrate SpiraTest from Inflectra with Atlassian JIRA. In the video, I will show you how you can create user stories in JIRA, and they will seamlessly come across into SpiraTest. From there, we can write test cases, run the tests, log bugs, and have those bugs move straight into JIRA for developers to fix. They can then be retested back in SpiraTest. And also, for those customers that might be interested in SpiraTeam, our ALM solution, we can also write requirements in SpiraTeam and push development tasks into JIRA for the team to work on for development. Let's get started. We're going to be showing you how you can use Spira from Inflectra with Atlassian JIRA. It will assume that you've already done the necessary setup, as in our documentation and the other video that we have on how to set things up. And we're going to be focusing on how you use it. So that means you will go to data synchronization in the administration, and you can see all the different options that you have. In this video, we'll be focusing on integrating Spira with Atlassian JIRA, but bear in mind that you can also integrate with other tools like GitHub, GitLab, Microsoft Azure DevOps, and a whole variety of other different project management tools as well. If you wanted to check those out, look at the other videos on our YouTube channel and subscribe. Now, let's get started. So in my sample JIRA project, which I'm just going to right now, I want to typically start with perhaps user stories and requirements. So if I go into my requirements view, you can see here, these are all the requirements that live in the system. And these can either be authored in Spira directly, and then from there, we can write test cases and then generate defects when we run them and push them to JIRA. Or in many cases, we may be pulling these requirements or user stories in from JIRA. And you can mix and match. You can have some of the requirements be natively written in Spira, and you can have other items that come in automatically from JIRA. So if I was in JIRA, I could go into my project, demo, and I can create a new user story. So I'll go in here, choose user story, and I'll just say, as a user, I want to be able to book or reserve a hotel room. That's my new user story. That's me. Adam, I'm going to select a component. We've got some components. I'll just pick one here, and I'll put a description in. Just say, I want to be able to choose the type of room, the city, and the dates. Down. It's not fixed yet, so that doesn't make sense. I'll give it a high priority. This is pretty important to me, and that will do. So I've created my new user story. I'll view the work item right here. There it is. There's my new work item. Perfect. So if I go back into Spira, the synchronization is running every couple of minutes. And if you go back to that data synchronization screen for a second, you'll see the last time it ran. And so it ran, in this case, about 1 minute ago. And in this screen, when it runs, it will update and say running, and then our user story will appear. So while waiting for that to appear, as they do in great cooking shows, we can say, here's one I prepared earlier. So here's an example of one we've created before, which is, as a user, I want to be able to book a flight. So in that case, that user story came in from JIRA. And one of the things to mention is that when an item comes in from JIRA, we automatically tag it with a JIRA ID. That's really important. So that way we know exactly, this is the item in Spira that we're going to be building test cases for. This is the item in JIRA. Now, obviously, I can type that into JIRA to find it, but there's one other nice feature, which is I can go to the attachment section right here, and I can click on the item, and that will open it up in JIRA for me right away. So if I'm in JIRA, it opens it right here if I'm logged in. Otherwise, it'll just let me authenticate. And there it is. So one thing to bear in mind with JIRA is that you have to be logged into it, and it will then appear. Like this one over here is the one I created in JIRA. This is the one that was linked to from Spira. There's the item in JIRA. And one thing to mention is that when you look at the item in JIRA, you'll notice that we also do have a link back to the item in Spira as well, right here. So it's bidirectional. We have a link in Spira. We have a link in JIRA. So you can easily click between the two different tools. So it's that easy. Okay, so while that was going on, let's see about the one that I just created. So here's my one I just created. This is the item I just created in JIRA 2 minutes ago. It's now arrived here, and you can see it's marked as requested. I go to the Overview tab. You'll see it's got the item in JIRA again. It's got the component, it's got the priority, it's got the name, and it's got the description. So what I now want to do is go ahead and create some test cases. So to do that, it's really easy. I will go into test coverage, and I will go here and add my test cases. So let's go ahead and do that. I could use the AI functionality in Spira to do that, or I could do it the old-fashioned way. For today, I'm just going to go ahead and do it the old-fashioned way, and I'm going to use the create test case from requirement, and that's going to create a brand new test case from this requirement. And if I click on it, you'll see it's right here. I want to be able to verify that I can go in and reserve a hotel room. So super easy. That's my test case. That's linked back to my requirement in JIRA. And I can add more steps if I want to using the insert step feature, or I can use AI to write the steps for me. Either way, that's fine. I've got one step. That's good enough. So now what I would typically want to do is then run that test case. So I can easily enough assign that to a tester. I'll assign it to myself. Hit save. Now it's assigned to me. I can go ahead and run that. So I'm going to go ahead and run that, hit execute. And you can see right here, it's going to ask me to choose a release. Super easy. I'll pick the release right here, release 1. I'll choose the next tab. And now I'm in there. It's a single step test case, so it's really easy. And let's pretend it failed. I want it to fail because that's really important to show a defect being logged and pushed to JIRA. So let's go ahead and fail that and say, failed with a missing page error. That was the error I got. And I want a sample image to send to this. So what I'll do is I'm going to go to my website here. I'm just going to deliberately put in a broken link. Let's see. Let me do this one. I've got a website here. There we go. We've got a file not found error. That's a nice error message. I'll just grab a screen cut, put that in here, and there is my missing page. But as well as logging a failure, I do want to mark it as a defect to log into JIRA. So easy enough. Go to the Instant tab here, and then I'm going to give it a name. So we'll say missing page when trying to book a hotel room. So that's a defect. Priority is high because it's impeding my functionality. I've seen component 1. I could tag it with something. I won't bother. Hit the fail button, and now it's failed. I can mark finish. I've now got a defect. Okay, so if I go back into Spira's built-in defect tracking system, I can see there's a defect we just logged. It's right here at the top of the interface. I'll click on it, and there's my defect. So that's really nice, really convenient. And as you can see, I've got the description, the expected result, the actual result. I've got a screenshot of the error, and I've also got links back to the test run, and I've got a link to my original requirement. Well, let's click on the link for the test run. And you can see in the test run, I've got the name of the result, I've got a description of what I did, the release I ran it on, and I've got a screenshot, and I've got my link defect right here. So nice and convenient, really easy to get to. So that's how it looks on the SpiraTest side of things. How does it look on the JIRA side? Let's check that out too. So if I go to View Incidents, go there, and then I'm going to go to the overview section. It hasn't yet synchronized with JIRA. As I said, it runs every 2 minutes, so we're still waiting for that to synchronize. When it does, the ID will appear right here. But while we're doing that, one thing I want to do is also go back to my requirements page. And if I scroll down to my new item, which is my being able to reserve a hotel room, we've got a single failure, but I also want to add some other tests that might be useful for regression testing. So I'll put book here, and you can see here we've got logging into a book system. I want to be able to book a flight. That's not so relevant, but I want to be able to report, do desk creation. Let's pretend that a couple of these are relevant test cases to my requirement. So I hit save. Those have all failed. And actually wanted 1 or 2 that are passed. So let's see what else we've got here. Let's take a functional test, grab some of those. Okay, that's nice. And then we're going to add like that. Perfect. So we've now got a series of tests. We've got 7 different test cases that are all linked to this one requirement. Of the tests, 5 have failed, 1 is blocked, and 1 is not run. So if I refresh that, you'll notice that the little bar chart has gone from being all red to being partially red, partially yellow, and partially gray. And that's really important because if I now go to my attachment section and open up the item in JIRA again, or actually I have it right here, I can just refresh the page here. This is my item in JIRA. And basically, if you go to the apps section on this, you can turn on the Spira QA coverage. And that will show you right here inside JIRA the pass and fail of this user story. So the great thing is on the Spira side, I see the tests that are associated with this one requirement. They're right here. I see the coverage indicator right here. If I go into JIRA, I can see the exact same thing as well. So that's really nice. That's for the flight, and that's for the hotel. So the hotel had, I think, said 5 part failures, 1 blocked, 1 not run. And the example with the flight, different user story, that one had 2 failed and 2 not run. So whatever it's showing in Spira, you will see in JIRA. And just to go over here, we can go to the flight one, and you can see that's got the same thing. So we have this synchronization between the 2 different systems, which is really nice. Now, while that was happening, I did log a defect in Spira. That defect has now appeared, or should appear, in JIRA. Let's go check on that. And we can go into JIRA, in fact. We can go to our JIRA list of issues. So we'll go over to projects, go to demo project, and we can have it look at the list of issues, and it should be in the list somewhere. And if you can't find it in JIRA, not a problem. We can go over here to Spira, and we click on incidents. We have a board view. We have a grid view in Spira too, so I can easily find it here. In this case, it's the one at the top, though. Just click on it, and then if I go to attachments, you can see it's got a link to JIRA. Click on that, and then bring it up here in JIRA. There you can see that's the description, the expected result, the actual result, the test steps, everything that we saw in Spira is preserved across. Here's the attachment. and can now be assigned to a developer to fix. And if I make a change in JIRA, it will actually update it back into Spira as well. So any comments. And one nice thing is if I'm looking at this item in JIRA, this is the defect that came in, you can see it's actually been automatically linked by the synchronization to the user story in JIRA. There's also a link back to the defect in Spira and to the test results. So there's lots of information that's being preserved and set up. So that way, if I'm working as a developer in JIRA, I have everything I need to do to work on this incident. I can see the attachments, the screenshot. I can see the user story it came from, any comments, anything to do with the test that happened to get to this point, all documented nice and clear. And I can act on it here, fix it. And then once it's ready for fixing, it goes back to Spira right here for the tester to be able to then verify, did it get fixed or reopen it? So we have this bidirectional synchronization. And that's pretty much the integration. It will synchronize requirements and defects between the two different systems. If you are using Spira Plan or SpiraTeam Edition, there's one more feature as well. If you go into the requirements section and you write requirements natively in Spira, you can also push the tasks as JIRA subtasks. So this is very useful for clients that want to be able to manage requirements in Spira rather than JIRA, push the work items for the development team into JIRA. You can do that by creating tasks here on the requirement, and those tasks will get added to JIRA as subtasks. And so you can see there's my task, just like I saw with the other aspects. I go into attachments, I click on the link, and that will bring it up in JIRA, and there's my subtask. Tie back to my story. So that lets a developer work in JIRA on tasks, and as they update the task, complete the work, that will update the status in Spira, and that will update the status of the requirement, so that once all those two tasks are marked as done, the requirement in Spira will get marked as developed as well. So we have that automation in place. So hope that was really helpful. Enjoy watching, and if you want more information on our other integrations, please check out one of the videos on ADO or GitHub.